All right, today we're going to talk about an event we did last summer in August called MyHouse Music Festival. It's a music festival that's on the rise. It's located at Harrison Park in the Pilsen neighborhood in Chicago.
So house music, I think I like to say it was a response to disco music that was coming out of New York. We're a Chicago operation, and house music was essentially founded in Chicago in the 80s. And they like to say that it's a genre of electronic dance music, but I would say that no one was even talking about electronic dance music in that way. Today you would hear EDM, EDM, but that I don't think that was a thing even then. House music was just house music.
Yeah, I would say like I'm not really a music connoisseur, but in terms of house music, like again, we're from Chicago, so we're familiar with it. It seems like its own genre in itself.
Right.
Okay, so more about this opportunity. So we actually got this opportunity as a referral from a close friend of mine that I played high school baseball with. He referred us over to the person that was looking for vendors. She was the director of the VIP section in the House Music Festival. So we got in touch. Eventually, kind of put us in touch with the guy. I don't know if he ran the festival or if he was just the financier, right? So
Yeah, I think he was like the head of finance or something to coordinate you
yeah,
guys and stuff.
so he was the guy making the decisions though in terms of the money and the purchases. Um, for us, it was really our first time having this big of an experience on the books and record for us. So negotiating price for an event like this was it was like new territory. And you were with me when it was going down,
Yeah.
and I was on the phone with the guy, and we were in the front of your house, and just trying to discuss like per head. They wanted to prepay for this, so anyone who bought a VIP ticket, they were able to come in, and food was included
Right.
in the package. So a true VIP experience. We were to supply the food for, was it 3 to 7? I think
I think it was right.
I want to say it was 3 to 7 each day, so
Few
four
hours
hours.
after it started and a
Right.
couple hours before the headliner came
So the
on.
dinner hour,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it was for 4 hours per day for 350 people. And I would say like we didn't really negotiate much, but we were basically saying we're not going below this level. And I don't know if we gave off too much information or how to do that better. And it's really a process for us. So if neither of us being in sales, learning how to be better with sales and negotiation. I don't think we got over on by any means in terms of the count and the price per person. But it was an interesting experience. And I really hope that me personally get more reps at that because I want to be better at just making sure we get what we're worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's twofold, and it's not like you said. I don't think either side got over on the other. We do have our packages, our structure when anyone puts an event request, right? It's a birthday party, it's a graduation. We ask them the number of people, we have a menu, and we kind of have a structure of what it should cost per head. A lot of people are familiar with this, all you can eat, that just those kind of things. But it's a different ball game when you're talking about a festival, even if it's a smaller, niche festival. But people are paying for tickets. There's a different expectation there, and then it's being prepaid by the event organizers. You want to make sure you're being adequately compensated for the service you're going to render, and then also you also there's an I think we had a certain urgency of wanting to lock it down, right? Because
Right.
we wanted that experience under our belts no matter what, in a way, because then we could say, hey, we did a festival. And not just a festival, like we talk about doing Riot Fest, where you have to apply and it's going to cost you a lot of money to actually be there. But this was a festival where they came out to us and they were going to pay us to be more exclusive in their VIP area, right? So,
Right. In most festivals, you have to pay to get in,
yeah,
and so this was it was a win,
yeah,
obviously. Like to say, come do this festival, be next to the main stage, and we're gonna pay you to do it.
yeah.
So it was great. We just needed to make sure that for our labor efforts, for the cost of goods sold, like that, all of it. At the end of the day, even if we made minimal money, it would have still been worth it in terms of the experience and logistics of learning how to do all of that. We definitely made good money on it, so I have no issues there. But yeah, just the experience of negotiating the price in general was interesting. So I definitely gave some details already. It was 4 hours per day. It was 2 hot days in the summer. We brought the trailer in the day of, the first day. Yeah, we left it there over the weekend, and let's get started into what went well.
Yeah, so some of the things that went well that I call it right away is how well we worked as a team, right? So I think you said the number, but we were contracted to expect anywhere from 3 to 350 VIP ticket holders. within that window that you specified. And so we had someone that was going to take orders. Joey Scalise was going to be taking orders. We had people operating the griddle, building hot dogs, and handing out orders, making French fries. Right, but without crazy detail, I just think we worked really well together in terms of calling each other out when we needed help, when we were moving around the trailer. Saying things like behind, handing things off to be fulfilled, handing things off to be handed out to customers. I think that went really well for one. Um, Another thing I have was just being prepared from an inventory perspective. So never mind if we talk about the numbers of people in the VIP section or just the volume. There was at no point that I feel like we were going to run out of anything, and we didn't. We brought plenty of boxes of potatoes for fries. We had plenty of burgers, dogs, buns, everything we needed, which in itself is like a testament to our preparation, right? Um, I think that went really well. Another thing that was nice, and this isn't something that went well, but just an accommodation that was there for us, was them providing electricity. Yeah, we have a generator on board, and I don't think it would have been any issue to run that because no one would have heard it with the music going on. We wouldn't have heard it, but it's also one of those things that was just one less thing to think about. Oh, do we have to add gas to it? Is it running well? An oil situation. We didn't have to think about it. They provided electricity. We were able to plug in, and our trailer was powered. And then one of the other things was overall time management. Um, what I like is that okay, we didn't have to serve until 3 o'clock. The trailer was on site and set up, and everything was there. We came rolling back into the festival at 1 o'clock. Gave ourselves a solid 2 hours to prepare. Never mind how it actually might have played out with the crowd and the volume of traffic to the trailer, but being able to okay, we're gonna hot hold and prepare 30 burgers and how many dogs, and the stations are ready, and we're just ready to go. We weren't like, oh, it doesn't start at 3 o'clock. Let's get going at 2:30, 2:45. So I felt like we had a good flow there.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on a lot of your points, we definitely worked well as a team. I really liked the aspect of communication throughout the trailer, and even with Joey Scalise being outside, like we were able to just change and pivot on the fly, and that stuff is necessary when you're going into a situation that you never done before and it's unpredictable. Um, the inventory was perfect. I think this is something we do all the time. We tend to err on the side of overbuying, but we've gotten better and better at it over time. And with all of the freezers that we have to reserve stuff, it's never really an issue. We had to really buy a lot for this specifically because it was essentially 700 people, and as you'll hear soon, 700 plus people for the weekend. So um, we did it perfect in terms of inventory. We still had some left over, and I thought there was good margin there in terms of how we planned. Uh, Having the electricity is huge. I don't know about you, but when we get into a situation when we have to use the generator, and this is maybe just because I don't have a lot of experience with generators or growing up having to use them, I get anxiety about the generator. Like, I think it's gonna, like, break down at any moment,
Yeah.
or the spark plugs, something's gonna happen where it just doesn't work, and our entire trailer is relying on the generator to run, and I don't know why. It's essentially an engine like a car, but in my mind, it's
I think generically that's kind of my point, is just one more thing to worry about without that detail, but also just knowing we don't draw that much power. We're not a house, right? We're a trailer, but every time you flick the hood on, that's an extra like amps that are being drawn, and you can hear the generator go like it's
right, it
okay.
revs up.
I'm doing more work, right? And it's the same thing that even when we have shore electricity, but you don't, it's not the proper outlet. It's at OTT, for example, a bar we serve at, when we plug into their garage, it's not the right specs for how much power we're going to draw. The most confident place I am with our trailer is at our spot, right? And we'll talk about that more. But that electricity was installed specifically for the trailer, the outlets, the plug. It gives us the power the trailer needs. But just to your point about, yeah, running the generator, it does the job, but I don't like having to think about it.
And then your point about overall time management, uh, that was the theme of 2023, in my opinion. I think so much of our success lends to our time management, and it was really just a matter of sitting down saying, hey, let's take this shit more seriously. Not that we never took it serious, but really just learning from the past, like letting those be reps and reps and reps to say, okay, I know that my plan is to always be on time and always be just way ahead of the curve. We did that probably 90% of the time last season, which is a great success rate in terms of just being ready when we're supposed to be, and really expecting things to, like, really expecting to go above and beyond because things might get bad. Like when you do that, like things always actually turn out better because you're ready for the unpredictability of stuff.
Yep.
Um, one thing that I thought went well was the day of. We had a wedding the day
Oh
before.
yeah.
So our good buddy got married in Milwaukee, and we had to drive back the morning of the House Music Festival. If I go back in time a few months earlier, we actually had a friend who reached out to us who said, "You guys want to get in House Music Festival? I think I could get you guys in as a vendor." And this would have just been a normal vendor, not in the VIP section. We said we're actually not going to be in town this weekend because we have a wedding to go to. So we turned that down, and then this opportunity came out of thin air of being like prepaid in the VIP section, and it just seemed like an opportunity that would be so incredibly stupid of us to pass up.
Right.
But our buddy's wedding was also something that we weren't really gonna miss. So naturally, we said we're gonna do both. Like always, we just try to do a little bit too much, and we went to the wedding. We had a good time. We didn't overdo it.
Yep.
And then you left a little bit before me in the morning. Like, what time did you leave?
I left at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
So, and just to touch on that, just the air on the side of being small business owners, right? This isn't our full time job. I think we disclose that. If not, we'll talk about that more. But this to say, we're all still human. We all still need everyone's trying to do too much for the most extent in your normal day, every day of life, right? But the point being, a good friend's wedding that we were well committed to and knew we were going to go to, we weren't going to pass that up. But at the same rate, we knew this was an opportunity we shouldn't or couldn't pass up when it turned into not just prepaid in the financials of it, but I don't know, lost for words, but just being in VIP, right? You were going to have higher
that
exposure,
credibility.
the credibility. You weren't going to be like one vendor amongst five or next to each other. Having that spotlight. We're like, this is good for our business resume, so to
Right.
speak. And so, but like, okay, well, how do we make that happen? Well, we're in two separate cars. I think we were going to drive together initially
We
before
did a
this came
lot of
up.
prep, as much prep as we could before we left.
Yeah.
Like anything that was preppable that early on, we did.
Yeah. And then it was also like, well, we're just going to make it happen, right? So we'll drive separately, 5 a.m. I'll get a head start and just fly out first and just start prepping even more, switching from my car to the truck, pick up our help and then get ready to go grab the trailer.
Yeah. And then in terms of, getting back to what actually went well here, I say that with the caveat because we had the wedding the day before, but we had to bring the trailer in that morning to get ready for that day. They offered us to bring it in prior to Saturday, prior to that first day. But again, we were going to be out of town. So we're like, we have to make this work. We brought it in. It actually took a really long time to park because they didn't know exactly where they wanted us to be. A lot of people don't understand when we tell them we have a trailer, not a truck. And you essentially need 42 feet of space when you're parking because you have the truck, you have the trailer. But that is just lost on so many people. You could tell them to their face, like, I have a food trailer, I have a food trailer. And they're like, yeah. So when are you bringing your truck? It's like, it's not a freaking truck, dude.
Right.
Like, sometimes I wish it was a truck. But then when I think about the space we have in there, I don't wish it was a truck at all.
Especially when talking about events like this, though, honestly.
Yeah. We needed, we had 4 people in there comfortably
Yeah.
and a freezer.
Yep.
Um, So yeah, we pulled up in one spot. They kind of didn't like us there. We were blocking the portal potties. We reversed into one spot, but we couldn't get it straight. It looked tacky. And then they told us to go over there. We weren't sure if we could go there, but we tried it. After finagling for however many minutes, we got perfectly in the right spot, right next to the stage.
Just to the right of the stage, right?
Right,
I
yeah,
actually like where we ended up. It would have been nice if they would have known that's where they wanted us from the get go, and it's all good because that's one point we were all figuring out as we went, right? Well, I pop up a picture to show people, but it was nice to see the stage, and then you see our big yellow trailer right next to
right.
it.
Any coverage on social media or from anyone,
You
you saw
saw
the
it.
trailer
Yeah.
because it was this big yellow, more than dogs, right next to the main stage, and it's awesome. And the only stage, but anyways,
They've had multiple stages in the past for what
I
it's
was
worth.
gonna say I thought they did. Another thing too about being early is when we pulled in there with the trailer, the guys were setting up all those fences, all those metal gates, and there was a pile of them in the way, and we were just waiting for them to move them. And if we just come in whenever we want, you don't know what you're gonna run into. So we were there early enough to just have a plan and let guys move around and adjust, right? Like if we came in last minute, they might be like, "Look, dude, I'm not moving this for you right now. We're busy. Like
Right.
we're taking care of stuff. Like you got to wait." But then who knows how behind we would have been. So we got in there with hours to spare, set up with hours to spare. We left We came back with all of our supplies, and we were able to be ready on time, like we spoke about. So overall, like it was intense and hectic to have to park that thing, and it took a long time, but it went well, all things considered.
It's interesting from my perspective, like because I completely agree with you. And then it's like when we achieved that, when we got it to be perfectly flush to the right of the stage and all that, it's like I wish we didn't have to go through that, and yet I feel really accomplished, honestly, when
Hmm.
that happens. I was like,
Yeah.
we did it.
Right. And that's the thing for people listening to this, whether you're an expert trailer driver or not. We learned how to drive a trailer because of this food trailer. We have no experience with it at all. Like the first time we ever had a party, it was like a 45-minute thing because we just didn't know what we were doing. And now we can, I don't want to say we're experts. I think we're pretty good at it though.
I think we're experts in our own right, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if in our parking yard, in our spot, we can both do it in under 3 minutes.
And someone listening to this who truly is an expert is probably like, these guys are idiots. Like, I would have parked that thing in 12 seconds.
Mm.
Well, yeah, you might have, but you also aren't running the cooking show. So, like, that's what we're there to do. And that's what I always say. Like, we're there to cook. The trailer just has to get transported. So, if we could just get it from A to B safely, that's what matters. Um,
I think that's a great point too, because I often complain out loud, or even to myself, is that when, I wanted a food truck, I wanted a food trailer. Sounds stupid, but it never actually crossed my mind that I'm like, I have to learn how to drive this thing,
right.
right? Like parking it, pulling it up in certain spots, even at 34th and Shields, getting it into the slab in just the right place.
Knowing
Like,
the stopping, like how sensitive it could be, the
right.
turns with
That that
hitting a pole or
that
something.
just literally don't didn't cross my mind. All the months that like we designed the trailer, anything up that I knew we'd have to drive it. Just the complexity of driving it, I never thought about it.
Right. And then leading into all of that, just the logistics overall, I also thought our setup was great. Our setup and our cleanup every day was great. From getting in there initially to getting out of there, it was seamless. We were very well organized and planned to the T. Took care of business.
Yeah, so if I wanted to jump into things that I thought maybe went poorly, not to, get too negative on it, but things went well, things went poorly, and we see areas for improvements. So one of the things that we can definitely improve on that went poorly is, and this is of our own doing, we made these custom order sheets. We knew what the menu was, we knew what toppings we were going to allow. That in Google Sheets, I made up this whole grid of what we're offering. It's a hot dog, and here's the toppings, and little check boxes next to all of them, and a cheeseburger and a Polish. And so basically, custom like order sheets that for each person that our order taker could like put their name on it and put their exact order on it. However, when someone came up to order, it was way too fast. And that sounds, maybe an ironic problem to have, or a quality of service to say that we allowed people to order too quickly, but we allowed them to order a lot of food too quickly relative to how quickly that food can be reasonably fulfilled, right?
Right.
And there were no item limits either, so it wasn't requested by the event organizers, and I don't think we ever thought about it. But to touch on that, yeah, some people like they were very reasonable. Everything we included fries with, right? So some people would get one hot dog with fries, one burger with fries. But then we did have a lot of orders where someone's like, "Oh, food's included. I'll take 4 cheeseburgers with everything, and 2 Polishes, and 2 hot dogs." And they were one person in line. I'm like, maybe
Right.
they're bringing it to their friends, maybe whatever they're doing. And we didn't have any policy to be like, no, that's not a thing. But if you think about our custom order sheets and Joey Scalise, the order taker, just how long would it take for someone to check that off? He literally can do that in less than 30 seconds, probably,
Probably less than 10 seconds.
for sure. And then it's like, so, but that specific order, just as an example, we now have to fill 6 items with everything on it, and that's 6 orders of fries, and that was taken in 20 seconds. Now think about how quickly he's taken multiple orders like that and throwing those tickets in the window, and then before you knew it, we have 60 tickets on the speed rail. So it's funny that like we actually caused this issue with creating such an efficient system and then not having any kind of item limits. And maybe we everything would still be unlimited, but like, hey, you're one time in line, you can only order 2 things at a time. It forces them to go back in line and order again. And it just creates like a natural pacing. That was one thing we talked about in terms of item limits, right? Another thing we could have done is actually forced or like purposely used our POS system. We didn't have to. We didn't need a pure need for this, and we thought it'd be quicker to like use the custom sheets and write stuff down. But if it just by having to click around in the square register and then wait for the ticket to print inside the register, inside the trailer, that could have created a more natural pacing to everything. Because then,
Right.
okay, maybe an order takes a minute to take or a minute and a half to take, you know? And I don't think people would have been upset with that because they would have seen Joey like doing the flow in the register. He's taking the order. He's not messing around with anything. And then it gives us a chance to fulfill the orders we already have.
Yeah, there's a psychological aspect to that, and I don't know like the perfect science behind it, but even me myself, I would rather wait in a long line and then get my food relatively quickly than feel like I'm waiting in a long line, even though the line's obviously moving really fast. If you could put 60 tickets on the line in a matter of minutes. So wait in that line and then wait an exceptionally long time to get some relatively basic food. So I think of it this way: if it was taking Joey 5 to 10 seconds to put in an order, if we make a Chicago dog in 20 seconds, but it only takes him 5 to 10 seconds to put the order in, if that order has two plus items in 5 to 10 seconds, but one item takes 20 seconds, if we have more than one item on there and we're looking at a minute to fulfill, each order gets delayed by 50-ish seconds, and it's a compounding effect.
And then we're doing fresh cut fries with every item, right? I mean, we're doing Maxwell style without Maxwell prices. So if you're ordering two hot dogs, two cheeseburgers on one ticket, that's four orders of fresh cut fries that we have to make sure are ready for just that order,
Right.
right?
And to say that we put out multiple items in a minute's time, that's actually really fast. It's just not fast in the context of I just waited in line, I ordered, and now I'm waiting. But it was the compounding effect of 50 seconds behind, 50 seconds behind, 50 seconds behind. I ordered, I get my food in 50 seconds, but that next person is waiting. They ordered, they're waiting 40 seconds plus 50 seconds. That next person orders, they're waiting the 40 plus 50 plus 50 or whatever it is, and so it's just that compounding effect of how you get the 20th person in line that's waiting however many minutes. And if he would have staggered it, if he would have customized the toppings in Square, kind of slowed it down, make him find them on the screen, click them, wait for it to print out, give them their order number, put it on the line, it would have been a natural delay of like, we're also hearing it come through. So now we're already making the food as he's still punching it in. And by the time it's on the line, it's pretty much coming out of the door. So you might wait in a longer line, but you order and it's like, oh, here's my food.
Right. Yeah. To be clear, this is completely an issue we set ourselves up for. Like, I
We
won't say we
thought we
set
were
ourselves up for
being,
failure,
yeah,
but we thought we were being super efficient with our ordering process. And the more efficient that process was, that in a sense did have set us up for failure on the fulfillment end.
right,
Because it creates a weird, like you said, a psychological thing. It's a weird expectation when you can place an order like this. I think psychologically you expect to get your order like this, right? And then also, the faster that line clears and orders, it actually only created a larger crowd over by the door waiting for their orders, right?
right. And then we were having to call out names instead of a number.
And then
So
very common names too, right? Someone's
yeah,
like, "Oh, is it Mike R or Lisa N?" And
right.
like,
Or names you can't pronounce
right,
or you couldn't read because of legibility. And I think at one point we were getting to a place of putting out 2 to 3 orders in a minute
very quickly.
to a minute and a half, which is fast. It just wasn't fast in terms of the perception of it. And I don't blame people for getting
No,
aggravated,
not at
but
all.
there's a lot to unpack there. So if we talk about, did you have more to mention on the ordering system?
No, I think I covered it in just in terms of being more conscious of when you're trying to be really high quality in one aspect of your service or your process, which I think we did with our order taking, the custom tickets. This is built for this event and this menu and how things are going to be done. You have to think about that full end-to-end flow, right? So the
Right.
faster you take some orders, the quicker they're going to expect their food, or at least that's how I would kind of do it. And so it's like make sure you're thinking on both ends of it.
Points that we have on here is that the expected crowd size, like we were budgeting for 350 per day. And some of the things that I thought went poorly, some of it could be on us and some of it could be on the host because they were doing a lot of last minute ticket sales to try to drive revenue and offering promotions, giving away VIP at a cheaper price. People can upgrade at the door, people can upgrade online, really for no reason at all. And this is the part where I got a little bit frustrated because that was poor planning because you prepaid a caterer for 350 people per day. And we're under the assumption you're letting 350 people in. per day. Like why would you let more in, right? Because if you let more in and then it's like, hey, I can't get food, why can't I? Well, you're the 351st person. And we just assumed that in terms of business logic that that wouldn't have been a thing, so we didn't really plan well for it. But they were letting people upgrade like it was about to go out of style, so they had to hurry up. And it added more to the bottleneck that we already created for ourselves by by all of those ordering sheets. And if you looked at one point, there was more people in the VIP section than in the GA section, which doesn't make any sense. And I really thought that diminished the quality of what it means to be in a VIP section. They got that pit right next to the stage. They were able to get free access to food. They had couches, like their own area, but it just went to shit when it was just overrun with people. So
And I think at any point, like we went over the numbers. I don't think we were egregiously, like, we weren't abused in terms of our
right,
product, or I think our contention with it was the quality of service diminished, or we struggled to maintain a quality of service that we expect of ourselves, because even if we didn't end up serving like a magnitude more of people in total, by having more people in the area at any given point, there were more people coming to us than would have been if there was the true number that should have been there,
right.
right?
Just to go off what you just said, if there's 1,000 people in the VIP section and 10% of them are in line to eat, that's 100 people. If there's 350 people in the VIP section, like we thought, and 10% of them are in line to eat, right? That is
30.
30. That's 30 people. So there's a big difference there in terms of I could take your order, I could fulfill your order, and then it'll be okay. Like if there's 30 people in line. But when you start to raise the scale of the amount of people that are in there, yeah, they're not all ordering food at once and they're not all in line at once because there's music going on. But you're naturally raising the percentage of people that are going to be in line for food, and it created a bigger bottleneck. But just me being a logistical person and you too, just seeing the quality of that section diminish was like, man, that sucks. Like VIP should be expensive on purpose because you're going to get exceptional service and have an exceptional experience. Like when you and I went to Riot Fest in the VIP section, we even had to pay for the food,
Yeah.
but the drinks were included. It was right next to the stage. It was never overpopulated. You felt like you got what you paid for because you weren't like this in a crowd or anything like that. And I felt like that changed
And full
quickly.
transparency, it's obviously a bigger festival, and they charge a lot more for those areas, for like the deluxe area. But you get what you paid for, right? And this not at all. This is meant to be a knock on My House Music in the VIP, but it shouldn't be just some slight upgrade that, okay, I can. You people are squeezing in, or they're doing automatic upgrades or forcing last minute upgrades, um, and then it's going to diminish the service they're going to get from the bar. The bars were always packed too, so it isn't just about us. We saw
Right.
the bars are packed. The special chairs, even the air conditioned bathrooms, right? At one point, they were bringing in porta potties to augment the bathrooms because there was just too many people for the luxury bathrooms that people were sold for their VIP tickets.
Right.
So you pay for a VIP ticket, and then you're using a porta potty that was like brought in by a forklift at the last minute.
Right.
What
Yeah.
did anyone get out of that?
And that's why this is really just, I mean, this is our analysis of it.
Right.
I mean, you could say we're knocking it if you wanted
No.
to, but truly, this is what you and I do for a living. Like, we're not master chefs. Like, we're selling hot dogs and burgers.
Right.
We're the masterminds behind the logistics and the business of a mobile operation.
Right.
And that's why I can't help but dissect what was going on here. I mean, you want to create a service so good that someone's willing to pay to be in there, not just like drop the price. And you could see like basic economics of the price fell, demand went up, and everybody went in there. So from our perspective, it was just like, okay, now we have to deal with this influx of people and try to serve them all as quick as possible with the system we created that shot ourselves in the foot. So it was just, I don't know, it was all a really, really good experience. And I had a lot of all that to say, my analysis sounds negative, but it was really just a great experience and I enjoyed trying to deal with it. Like running across the field to get stuff, you know?
Right. And again, it's like we just said, it's not about knocking the organizers, it's not about knocking the festival. It's us doing open analysis, because given the opportunity, we would probably do it again. But it comes down to transparency so that everyone can be adequately prepared, right? If they're like, yeah, you might see up to 500 people, we've already thought about in our own review sessions, and also talking to our help and everything. Like, how can we do this better? How can we do this differently? Someone's like, well, maybe if we have a prep station behind the trailer, if we did this, if we did that, we could have prepared to know that the number was 400, 500, 700. but we prepared for the number we were told what was going to be, right? In any
Right.
given moment, what percentage of that crowd we think you can see, right? They even told us, yeah, we're only selling 350 tickets, and at any given moment, we expect 50 of them to be out walking the festival. They won't even be in the VIP area, so it's like, oh yeah, we can handle this, and this we're going to build this setup to handle it this way. And then it's like, well, when plans change in real time, there's just consequences for that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I was talking about, I don't know if we need to have a way to enforce that. Like, oh, should we be giving out, if we're contracted for 350 people in a scenario like this, should we have 350 wristbands? And then, when you first come up, we give you a wristband for your food. You can come back and get as much as you want, but it would prevent that 351st person or that 400th person from being able to order. And I feel weird about that, honestly, because I'm a big festival goer myself. I don't like over enforcement of things because, especially when you're paying a high ticket, certain things should just be built in.
Hmm.
The people on our side of the fence should be smart enough to think of logistics well enough that I shouldn't have to do something extra. I already
Right.
paid extra money, right?
Yeah.
So, admittedly, I don't even like that. I just don't know how you can protect the quality of service. Is what I'm talking about.
I personally think that we should do it only because we were not a part of the festival. Um, like we weren't the festival. We were vendors brought in prepaid. Now we would love that influx of people if we were vendors getting paid on the spot by the people because we're trying to serve as many of them as we can.
Yeah,
But if you give them a wristband, even though like you said you don't want to have to do that, it's going to force two things to happen. You're going to hit 350 and you're going to tell them, I'm sorry, like the festival told us that we're serving 350 people. Now that's not a lie. The festival told us we're serving 350 people. I don't know what happened here, but this is a misunderstanding, right? So now you have that. If enough people say, hey, why can't I get free food? I upgraded to VIP. They're going to come to us and we're going to tell them, hey, like we handed out 350 wristbands. We can bring more wristbands for when they're ready to say, like, okay, we'll pay you for 100 more people per day then. Okay, well, we'll hand out 100 more wristbands. I think it's a combination of having good service, but also standing our grounds because in this scenario, we're the little guy. Like, there's no reason for us to get walked on or stepped on things that, even if they're not doing it on purpose, this is a good thing to have in our pocket to say, you signed a contract for 350. There is more than 350 in here. And if we didn't hand out 350, all is well. So it's all good. But it still leads to the aspect of there's too many people in line at once. But again, we would have been prepared. We could have said, like, we'll bring the hot dog cart in. We could have put the hot dog cart behind the trailer. We could have just had more cooking ability and operations. But when you don't know what you don't know, not even from your um, lack of initiative, it makes the situation tougher. I think that when there's open communication, transparency, overall, everything just becomes better.
yeah, I couldn't agree more in that sense on both ends of it.
One of the things that I thought we could improve overall is the order fulfillment area and space. Like we had the freeze in there because we need it in there. Our windows suck. We know that. We talked about that before. But having to scream out names, definitely use the POS to do numbers, and it really is a bottleneck to have to open the door every time and give people their food. So that, like for me, is one thing that I thought we could really improve on.
Yeah, I agree, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. Our windows are suboptimal for what we're trying to do, and then also, like you said, calling out names, and I think this is something we haven't talked about yet. But it was a byproduct of the line and the time it would take to fulfill an
My
order.
God.
Someone would place their order, no matter the size of it, and then they would walk away. They're going to the washroom, they're going to the bar, and then, well, giving us no credit for the fact that their order might be ready 2 minutes, later. We're calling out their name, and there's no one in sight. And then the people that are now waiting, they're like, well, that food's ready. Why can't I have it? Or like they don't understand that we have a pile of food for people that just walked away, and we're gonna make their food fresh, and they still have to wait for that to happen.
Right. And in theory, we could give them their food, but then eventually, when Joe Schmo comes back, he's gonna be wondering where his food is, and it's just a whole other ordeal and like another bottleneck to add to the queue. It's like, okay, all right, we'll make yours right now, but that again lends to the line, like you said, because if you wait, order, get food, it's good. But if you wait, order, wait, I'm drunk or high or thirsty, and you go get something or you go to the bathroom, you come back, then boom, mess. So
Yeah, and that just also leads me to the other point of like what the expectation is of people. Like, did they actually? A lot of people didn't even know they were getting food with their VIP ticket.
yeah,
which gave again like a weird setup of how much they ordered or how long they wanted to wait, or and then like the fact that you were ordering food that someone was taking the order, cooking it fresh. Never mind, we weren't making that specific item fresh. Depending on our flow, anyone would bulk prepare. But if you said like, "Hey, everything no tomatoes," that item was being topped fresh with no tomatoes on it. I don't know what someone's expectation is to have that to be included versus just, oh yeah, your ticket includes free food. You're just grabbing it off a table or a warmer,
Right.
like a traditional more catering setup. I don't have the answer to this. I'd be interested if anyone has thoughts in the comments or just feedback. What is the difference between a caterer and a vendor in that sense, right? I mean, like even like you brought up Ride Fest in the deluxe area, they had that gourmet hot dog truck. Like you said, for one, you had to pay for it. Two, well, you were paying for your order to be made fresh.
Right.
And then also, I've been to places where food's included, but you're just grabbing it off the table, and who knows how long it's been sitting there.
Right.
So like, it makes me wonder, and this is such a weird thought to think: do we have to get better at our baselines for quality of service relative to the event? It doesn't mean you serve a lower quality product, but what are people's expectations for what they were paying for and what they
Right.
thought they were getting?
And I think that's the other thing too, because from a business perspective, yet again, if someone tells you, yeah, 350 people, we want you to supply the food, we're telling you the menu we're offering, we're telling you that we're topping it, what the toppings are, and you don't let the people know that, or maybe they did let the people know, but they didn't read it or read the fine print. I don't know, but food was included. It was built to order. It was quality food cooked fresh on site, and I'm erring on the side of wristbands to protect us, but also a 2 item per limit order, because we're not limiting you on how many times you can visit. We're just saying when you get in line, you come up to us, don't order 20 hot dogs. Like that's it. So get 2 items and then come back later, because that makes it better for everybody. And I don't know. That's just, especially in a festival type vibe. Like you just want there to be good, happy vibes, right? Like that is the thing when you're
Yeah,
there.
that's
So,
true.
and then just to recap, I don't think we put in context what was on the menu, but it was hot dogs, Polishes, and burgers. So it was a simple menu with,
Vegan burgers too, though,
yeah,
too, or
vegan burgers, and we had fresh cut fries.
no.
So
It wasn't a hard menu, but again, that was all food that was largely cooked fresh to order, top to order to your customizations of toppings, and everyone was getting fresh cut fries with their item.
right, and it was just a volume game too. It was like robots for 4 straight hours,
Yeah.
dripping sweat. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button, press the like button, comment, give us your thoughts, give us your feedback, and ask us any questions that you want to know about what we're doing.